All right, now for the fun stuff, adding media to your posts. And by media, I'm talking about video, and I'm talking about images, of course, and audio files, and all kinds of good stuff. The stuff that really makes your blog sort of an interesting experience for your visitors. So in this section of our time here together, we're definitely going to be talking about a lot of the different ways that we can work with media and WordPress together, how we can add media to our posts, and so on and so forth. But before we really delve deeply into the subject of adding media to your blog, I think it's important that we first take a look at setting some of your media options inside your WordPress installation and really understanding exactly how those options work. So that's what you and I are going to do together right now. So to get started here, I'm looking at my dashboard, of course, and I'm going to head all the way down to the bottom left of my screen, and I'll expand open the Settings menu down towards that bottom left area there, and look for Media underneath your Settings menu. Okay. Now, the media screen, of course, opens up for you. And at the top of the media settings screen, it talks about image sizes and your default image sizes. So the sizes listed below determine the maximum dimensions in pixels to use when inserting images into your posts. So we have three settings here. We have thumbnail size, we have medium size, and we have, of course, large size as well. So the default width and height for your thumbnail images is 150 pixels by 150 pixels. So you can, of course, come into these fields and change them if you want. Maybe you only want your thumbnails to be 100 pixels in width by 100 pixels in height. You can, of course, set that to whatever you want. And we have this option here, crop the thumbnail to the exact dimensions. Normally, thumbnails are proportional, so that's entirely up to you, although this may cause some distortion inside your thumbnail images. Our medium size, the maximum width and maximum height. So maybe what I'll do is I'll come in here and maybe I'll change this to a maximum of 250 pixels for both the width and the height there. And then finally, the large size, maximum width and maximum height. Maybe I don't want my images to be any larger than, let's say, 500 pixels square, something like that. Okay, wonderful stuff. Now you'll see how these image settings play out as we start dropping images, graphics, and so on into our posts. But I want to now sort of shift gears and talk about something called embeds. And we have something here called Auto-Embeds. And we have this guy turned on by default. Attempt to automatically embed all plain text URLs. What the heck does that mean? Well, what we can do is we can create a post and then simply type in a URL directly to a piece of media, perhaps a video on YouTube. Now, normally this is only used with video, by the way. And what WordPress will do is it will automatically embed that URL if it detects it, right? Which is extremely cool. So that saves us from having to deal with any lengthy embed codes and things like this. I don't know if you've ever had to mess around with that stuff before, but it's kind of a pain in the neck. Now, due to security, this auto-embed option will only work with certain video services. I'm not going to rhyme them all off for you here, but here's a sort of a short list for you. It'll work with YouTube videos, anything that's hosted on Vimeo or Dailymotion, Flickr, Vidler is just fine, Google Video, PhotoBucket, and there's a few others as well. So anyway, so you can certainly check this out if you want. And then below that, we have the maximum embed size. The width is blank, but the maximum height for our embedded videos is 600 pixels. And you see here, if the width value is left blank, embeds will default to the maximum width of your theme, that theme that's controlling your blog look, right? I thought it would be important to kind of give you a little bit more information on this idea of embeds, because it's definitely cool stuff. So what I've done here is I've opened up another browser tab inside Firefox, and you may want to go and check out this URL on your own, and you might want to read up on it. http://codex.wordpress.org/embeds. So in other words, the WordPress codex is going to tell us exactly how this auto embed option works. And if we scroll down here a little bit, it says all we need to do to embed something in a post or a page is to post the URL into that content area, that body area of our post. And then they give us an example. Check out this cool video. There's that URL, that plain text URL I was telling you about. That's all there is to it, and WordPress will do the rest. It's extremely cool stuff. Alright, so now that we've gone and set up some of the media settings, we have to make sure that we click on Save Changes down at the bottom. Everybody seems to forget to click on Save Changes, so just be sure to save your changes. Now that everything's been saved up, we're ready to actually start working with media inside our posts. Okay, first up, let's have a look at inserting images, graphics, into our blog posts. Now, what you can do, if you want, is you can go and create a brand new post for your graphic, or what you can do is you can add your graphic into an existing post. The choice is up to you. It doesn't really matter because the process essentially for inserting a graphic is going to be the same, whether it's for a brand new post or an existing post. So I think what I'll do here anyway is I'll go and insert a graphic into one of our existing posts. So to get started, I'll head down to Posts there inside the left-hand menu. And I think what I'll do is I'll add a graphic into this Welcome to My New Blog post that you and I created together. So go ahead and open that post up in the edit mode. Just expand things out here. Okay, great, good stuff. Now, what I want to make sure of is I don't want to use the HTML editor for this. So make sure, just double check here that you're on the visual editor in the top right corner there. So make sure you're on the visual tab there. And then what you need to do is you need to place your cursor inside your post where you want the graphic, the image, to show up, right? Maybe you want this graphic to sit on its own line, or maybe you want to have it a part of the actual text. It's really up to you. So I think for simplicity here, I'll just drop my cursor right at the very beginning of my post. Okay, now, of course, we have the formatting toolbar running right across the top of our editable sort of body field there. But I haven't talked about this upload insert toolbar, this guy right here, at all. In fact, I haven't even really acknowledged that he exists. So hover over top of the first icon there, and you'll get a tooltip there that says Add an Image. So obviously that's the guy that we're after, this fella here. And then next door to him, we've got another icon there, Add Video. So we'll be using him in just a little while. And then, of course, the music note would suggest audio or music. And then there's sort of a star icon, which is add media, so add additional media types. So we'll see how all of these guys actually play out and how they all work here. But of course, let's get started with the first guy here, add image. So go ahead and click on that guy. And what happens here is we get this Add Image dialog box appearing here. Now I'm just going to pull mine over just a little bit, see if it'll let me pull it over. No, it won't. Okay, so I'm just going to collapse down my browser window just a bit here so we can see the full dialog box here. And of course, you see the full dialog box on your side. Now we've got a lot of different options that we can use when we go about inserting images. So we can go from computer, so we can insert an image that is currently saved on your computer. That's one option. We've got from URL, so we could add in an image that's currently live on the web somewhere, so long as we know the URL to that image. And then last but not least, the third option is to add in an image from our media library. And we saw the media library briefly earlier, and we'll talk more and more about the media library in this section of our training. But suffice it to say, I'm going to start off with from computer. So make sure you're all the way back on that first tab there, from computer. Add media files from your computer. Perfect. Now, this gets a little bit confusing. But right now, I'm on what's called the Flash Uploader. So I see here, choose files to upload. I have select files, and you can see there's a cancel upload button there. And then below that, I see you're using the Flash Uploader. Are you having problems? Try the Browser Uploader. So when you opened up this dialog box, you may have actually seen this. I have no idea. So right now, I'm using the Browser Uploader, and I can try the Flash Uploader if I want. It really doesn't matter which one you use, but sometimes the Flash Uploader conks out, so you might want to stick with the Browser Uploader. But in any regard, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to work with my Flash Uploader. I'll go ahead and click on Select Files and make sure that you're looking at your Project Files folder, which should be sitting on your desktop. You might have to navigate into that folder. And let's see here. I'm going to go and grab a file called droid2.jpg. Now, of course, it almost goes without saying that all of your images have to be saved as either JPEGs, GIFs, or PNGs, because of course we're in a web design environment here, but hopefully you know about that stuff. Anyway, I'm going to grab droid2.jpg. Go ahead and click on Select inside your dialog box, and there my droid just uploaded there. It happened pretty quick. Now, here's what's interesting. I'm going to scroll down here. We've got a lot of options that we have available to us. So, first of all, I get a thumbnail of my image that I just uploaded. I've got the file name and the file type, the upload date, and the dimensions of the original file, right? And then if I continue scrolling down, we've got the title for the image, the alternate text for the image. Now, you might know about title text and alt text from your previous travels. I have no idea. We can add in a caption and a description. So maybe to sort of show you how all of this is going to play out, I'll add in some of the text content that they're asking for here. So for the title, I'll type in, here's Jeff's cartoon droid. Just like that. Okay. Now, for the alt text, I'll type in, here's the alternate text for Jeff's cartoon droid. There we are. Because I want to show you exactly where this alt text is going to show up. Caption. Now, I'm going to keep it simple here. I'm going to type in, here's Jeff's caption. And then finally, here's Jeff's description. Okay. So we actually want to see exactly where the caption, the description, the alt text, the title text, and so on actually shows up inside our post. And we'll have a look at that and a few other things next. How are you looking there? Did you get your title text, your alt text, and your caption and your description in there, and so on? Okay, perfect. All right, now I'm just going to scroll down a little bit here so we can see what's happening. We have a link URL. So what we can do is we can include a link for our image if we want. So there he is. Now you can go file URL if you want, the actual URL to the graphic. Or when someone clicks on the graphic, it can link up to the post. Or you could say none if you don't want a URL at all. And I'm going to go ahead and click on none. So in other words, my image is not going to be clickable, right? Okay, now what else do we have? Below that, we have alignment. So we have four options here. None, left alignment, center alignment, or right. So I'm going to leave the default here, which is none. And then below that, we have our size. Now, you and I just set some options in our media settings panel for our default sizes. There's the default thumbnail size. There's medium. It wants to bring it in as a medium. Remember, we had that large size as well, or we can go full size, the full image size. And that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to bring my cartoon droid in at its full original size. Now, you know what the trick is here? Is usually at this point what people do, and I'm at fault for doing this as well, is they click on Save Changes and that's kind of the end of it, right? Well, you've got to remember to add this guy to your post. So make sure to click on Insert into Post. And there's your droid inside your actual post there. And of course, everything's kind of jammed up on me here, but what I want to do is I want to see this guy inside my blog now. I want to see how he actually looks. So be sure to click on Update over on the right-hand side. Make sure that post updates for you. And let's go and preview our post. So if you want, you can click on Preview Changes, or you can do the Control or Command click trick that I was showing you earlier for the Visit Site link up in the top left. And that's what I always do anyway. So let's see what we have here. Head to my Preview tab here, scroll down just a little bit. There's our graphic. What's important to note here is, well, a few things. First of all, the graphic has taken up a lot of space here, and you can see that he's even running into this right-hand menu that is a part of my WordPress theme, right? So I've got to be mindful of that. So maybe what I should do is I should go back and change the size of my graphic. But also note, too, if I scroll down, that even though this guy was placed inside the text, remember I placed my cursor right before the beginning of my text, he appears on his own there. There's the caption that I can see, and of course the rest of the post below him, right? And here's something kind of neat too. If you hover your mouse over top of your graphic, there's that alt text or that title text that you and I had just set for our image. Pretty cool stuff. All right, let's see what we can do about our graphic here and see if we can resize him a little bit so he's not running into that right-hand menu inside our blog theme. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and keep this preview tab open, and I'll just flip back over to the Edit Post screen inside the backend admin here. And again, I'm a little bit jammed up here inside my browser, but hopefully you can bear with me here. There's my graphic down in the post there, and what I'm going to do is if I single click on my graphic, you'll see that we get a pair of icons showing up in the top left corner of our graphic or our image. Now, if they disappear like they did for me there, just click again and they should show up for you. And it's this first icon that we want, Edit Image. Go ahead and click on that guy, and that'll bring you into this Edit Image screen or this Edit Image dialog box. Okay, now what are our options? Well, first of all, we can scale our image if we want based on percentages, which is pretty cool. So that's really what I was after here. I really came here to see if there was a way to scale down my image, and we found it right off the bat. So you might want to try 90, or you might want to try 80 or 70 or whatever it is that you want. And of course, as I hover over top of these different percentage values, I get this live preview happening for me there over on the right-hand side of this dialog box. So I think what I'll do is I'll go with 80%. Go ahead and single click on 80% to lock that in. I'm just going to scroll down a little bit here and see what else we have inside this dialog box. We've got our alignment options. Don't forget we had set ours to none, but we could choose left, center, or right. So you can always come in and change your alignment values. Remember we had added in that image title. And we also added in that image caption for our graphics. You can always come in here and change these guys if you want. And remember, we were messing around just a little bit with the link URL. So in other words, if you want to make your graphic clickable, if you want to make your graphic into a link, this is where you do it. Okay. Great stuff. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and scroll up because there's a few other things I want to show you here. We have an advanced settings tab. Go ahead and click on that fella. And at first glance, it looks pretty much the same as the first tab that you and I were on, that edit image tab. But if I scroll down here a little bit further, we have more options. So, for example, we have source. So this is the location, the source of the graphic Droid 2. Remember, we went and selected this guy out of our sample files folder, right? Our project files folder. Well, it's interesting to note where this file actually gets saved inside WordPress. So here's how it works. It's going to get saved to your site. So whatever your URL is, jeff-blake.com or yourname.com or whatever it is, /wp-content/uploads/the year /the month, and then the name of the graphic. So if you want, you can actually dig into your folder structure and go and find exactly where this file is located inside your WordPress file structure, if that makes sense. Okay, now below that, a little bit easier here, we have the alt text or the alternate text for our image. You already saw how to set that. And then we have the size for our image. So this is the current size of the graphic as it's going to be inserted or displayed inside our post, and we can always revert back to that original size if we want, just by clicking on this original size button. Now, the next part here does get a little bit more complicated. The CSS class, or the CSS rules that are controlling our image. And we'll get more and more into CSS as we make our way along here, but there's some CSS rules at play inside our theme, several of them here that we can see, that are actually controlling the way the graphic appears inside our post, the behavior of our graphic, if you will. Below that, we can set a border, vertical space, and horizontal space. And then finally, at the very bottom, what we can do is we can go and set up some advanced link settings. So if you went and set up a hyperlink for your graphic, well, you can set a title for that link and a link rel and a class, another CSS rule there, and so on. And then there's your target down at the bottom. And then, of course, at the very end, don't forget to click on Update. So let's update our graphic, update our post there on the right-hand side, and see if we scale them down enough to not have them run into that right-hand menu there, that right-hand sidebar. So I'm back on my preview page here. I'm going to hit Command-R or Control-R on the Windows side to refresh. There we are. There's the scaled graphic. He's scaled down to 80%, don't forget. So there we are. There's editing and adjusting your inserted images. Maybe we should take a moment and talk about some extra image editing options that we have available whenever we're working with our graphics inside WordPress. Now, I'm still inside the Preview tab inside my browser, and what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to keep this Preview tab open because we'll be coming back to this screen in just a moment as we start messing around with our graphic a little bit. But what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to head back to the back end of my blog, the Edit Post screen, and I hope you still have that guy open. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, just give me a second here, I'm going to expand this out just so we have a little bit more elbow room here. And there's a few things that I want to point out as you're editing your images here. So here's my cartoon robot. And of course, as you already know, when I click on my robot, I get these two icons showing up in the top left corner there. Again, if they go and disappear on you, just single click on your image again. And we know that the first icon is going to let us edit our image. And that second icon, of course, is going to let us delete our image, right? But what you may not have noticed is we have these resize handles all the way around our image, running all the way around the outside of our image. So in all four corners and on all four sides of our image. Now, what these little grab handles will let us do, essentially, is visually scale our image if we want. Maybe something like this. I can scale them down if I want, something like that. It kind of gives me a much better idea of what my graphic will look like as a part of my overall post, right? So of course you can scale them way down, you can scale them back up if you wish, whatever you want, really. But you have to be careful with these resize handles because if you use the grab handles on the sides, well then what winds up happening is you wind up distorting your graphic, which is really no good, right? So watch out for that. Now, I have a quick skill testing question for you. Earlier on, we saw where there was an undo button inside our interface here inside WordPress whenever we're editing our posts. Do you remember where that undo button is? Of course, we could hit Control-Z or Command-Z here on our keyboards if we wanted to, but I'm wondering if you remember where that undo button is. Well, if you're thinking it's on the kitchen sink toolbar, you're absolutely right. Go ahead and pop open your kitchen sink, and then there's our undo. So I can just hit undo there, and that will resize my image back to where it was. As a matter of fact, I can hit undo multiple times just to kind of step my way all the way through all those different changes, just like a traditional undo in a word processor, right? Okay, good stuff. So there's our undo. Don't forget about that guy. Okay, I'm going to collapse down my kitchen sink toolbar. I'll just click on that little toggle button there. And there's a few other things that I want to show you here while you're working on your images and editing your images inside your posts. So here's what I'm going to do. Right now, I'm inside my visual editor, of course. I'm going to go and flip over to the HTML editor. Go ahead and do the same thing there. Now, this entire block of code at the very top of my post anyway, that's all the code that's needed to insert my graphic into my post. But I think what we'll do here is let's kind of break this down a little bit. So the code starts off by referring to caption, and then it has ID equals attachment underscore 107. Now what ID equals means, if you're unfamiliar, is that that's a reference to a CSS rule, something called an ID selector rule in the world of CSS. So it's using CSS here. There's an alignment option here. There's width, and then it has caption equals, and then here's Jeff's caption with some weird looking characters there inside the spaces there and the apostrophes and that kind of stuff, right? So this is the caption that I'm sure you remember typing in not too long ago when we were first inserting our image into our post, right? And then after that, it kind of switches back to regular old HTML. There's an image tag, class equals, and then size full WP hyphen image hyphen 107. Now that's a reference once again to another CSS rule called a class rule. And then after that, we have our title. Here's Jeff's cartoon droid. I'm sure you remember typing in your title. And then, do you remember earlier we were talking about the source of your image? So the location of droid2.jpg is now whatever my website is. I'm on localhost, but you could be on yourname.com or something like that. /WP content, /uploads, /year, /month, and then of course the name of the graphic, right? And then after that we have our alt text or our alternative text. Here's the alternate text for Jeff's cartoon droid, followed by the width, followed by the height. So that's a breakdown of all of the code, right? Now, I thought it would be fun here, because we're dealing with code, that means that everything is editable. We kind of have carte blanche here in terms of editing our stuff. So I thought it would be kind of fun to do some code editing here with you to try and control and manipulate our graphic a little bit. Now here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to collapse down my browser for a moment, and I'll head back to my preview tab here. I hope you still have your preview tab open. And how it's working for our cartoon robot here is, maybe you can see this. You'll definitely be able to see this on your end, but it might be kind of hard to see in the video here. But there's a very light, a very faint gray border all the way around my graphic, all the way around my cartoon. And then, of course, there's the text at the bottom. Here's Jeff's caption, right, which we typed in earlier. Well, maybe I decide down the road that I want to get rid of this gray border and I want to get rid of that caption. How can I do that? Well, we can do that through the post editor. So let's go and do that. So I'll flip back to WordPress and I'll crank out my browser window once again. And there's two pieces of code that I want to get rid of here inside the HTML editor. And the first piece of code is this block here, where it starts with the open square bracket caption ID equals, and then where it ends with the whatever your caption was, and then the close quote, and then the close square bracket. That's your first block there. Select all of that, no more, no less, and then hit your delete key on your keyboard. That's the first piece gone. Second piece is going to be where the caption actually ends. You'll see there square bracket / caption close square bracket. Grab that little bit, delete that as well. Okay, I think we're looking good here. Give me a moment here, and we will click on update to update our post. Wait for that post to update there. Head back to our preview. Remember how to refresh your browser? Command R here on the Mac or Control R on the Windows side. Okay, great. The border's gone, that faint gray border, and that caption text below. Very cool stuff. So your images are always editable, either in the visual editor or in that HTML editor. Okay, wonderful stuff. Let's go and do one more thing. I want to get rid of this graphic because we're going to go and insert a different graphic. So head back to WordPress, head back to your visual editor there. Maybe what I should do is I should crank this open a little bit so we can see our visual editor a bit better. Click on that visual editor tab. Remember how to delete a graphic, right? Select them there and use your delete icon. That's all there is to it. Okay, at this point, go ahead and save your post by clicking on the update button over on the right-hand side. And let's go and insert a graphic via a URL. I know I just finished saying that we're going to take a look at inserting images from a URL, but you know, there's one other quick thing that comes to mind that I want to show you here. Something very cool in WordPress. WordPress has a built-in image editor, and you know, I'd better show you this before it slips my mind again. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to head back down into my posts, and I'm going to go ahead and click on Edit. And of course that brings up my list of posts here, and I still have just this measly list of posts here. That's okay though. And I'm going to go into this welcome to my new blog post. And what I want to do here is I want to go ahead and insert another image into this post. So bear with me here as I once again crank out the width of my browser window so I can see what's happening here. And as before, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and upload an image from the sample files that we have here for our WordPress course. So drop your cursor inside your post wherever you want. Doesn't really matter where. I'm going to drop mine once again at the beginning here. And then up on the Upload Insert toolbar, I'm going to go ahead and click on Add an Image. And again, I'm using this Flash uploader, so I'm going to click on Select Files. And inside the Project Files folder that we have, I'm going to go and grab droid.jpg, and I'll click on Select. And this guy's going to upload here. Now, I want to show you this screen here. So once again, it's all about collapsing and expanding this browser window here. That seems to be the theme here. Anyway, this is what I wanted to show you. We're inside this screen here once the graphic gets uploaded, right? And you've seen this screen already when we first inserted our other cartoon robot, our other droid, right? We saw the size options and the alignment options, that link URL and so on. But what I wanted to show you is right over here where we have the thumbnail for the graphic and, of course, the file name and file type and so on. There's a button here that says Edit Image. And, you know, you may have eyeballed this guy before. I don't know if you clicked on him or not, but go ahead and click on him now if you haven't seen this. And we wind up inside WordPress's image editor, which is kind of bizarre. Let me just scroll down here. This is where we're really talking here. Now, I'm not going to do much in terms of editing my image at this point, but I do want to make you aware of some of the things that we can do to our uploaded images. So first of all, what I could do is I could crop my image. And what's interesting about cropping my image here is you'll notice if I continue scrolling down here, we can apply these changes that we are about to apply to our cartoon here to all of our image sizes, which I'm sure you'll recall from earlier. We had the thumbnail and the large and so on. To all the image sizes, to the thumbnail, all sizes except the thumbnail, right? Which is kind of cool. Anyway, so you can crop. You can rotate your image, rotate counterclockwise and rotate clockwise. You can even flip your image vertically or horizontally, right? So pretty cool stuff, especially if you don't have an application like Photoshop to help you set up your images, right? And then over on the right-hand side, we have Scale Image. Go ahead and click on that, and that should expand out for you. You can proportionally scale the original image for best results. The scaling should be done before performing any other operations like cropping, rotating, and so on. You may decide to come in here and scale your image. Again, I'm not going to actually do this here, but you can certainly try this out on your own if you like. I'm just going to click on Scale Image again just to collapse that area down. And then if I scroll down a little bit further, we'd have to save our image. And then finally below all that, we have some familiar options here. The title, the alt text, caption, description, link URL, and so on, right? So hopefully all good. And then even below that, we've got all of those alignment options and the size and so on. Anyway, there you go. Hopefully all good. Now, if you want to go ahead and insert this guy into the post, go for it. Of course, he shows up here. He's super huge. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to delete him out of my post. So there you go. There's a quick look at WordPress's built-in image editor. All right, without further ado, here's how to add in an image from a URL. In other words, what we'll do is rather than choosing an image that resides on our computer and uploading it to our WordPress account or uploading it to our hosting account, instead what we'll do is we will set it up in such a way so that we will link to an image that already resides online. Now, before we actually get into this, I think it's worth mentioning a couple of ground rules here. What you don't want to do is you don't want to link up to someone else's image on another website. That's called hot linking. And you may have heard the term before. It's really frowned upon in a major way in web design circles and in internet circles. Why? Well, let's say, for example, I go and hot link to 2 or 3 images from someone else's website, and I dump all those images into one of my blog posts. Well, whenever anybody goes to read my blog post, in order to open that post, the images, of course, have to load. And for the images to load, the blog then has to go and tap into those images or connect up to those images from the other website, which means I'm actually sucking resources off of that other website, right? I'm using up their bandwidth for my blog. So hence why it's really considered a no-no. So again, if you're going to do this, make sure it's on your own website, your own images, this sort of thing. There's even ways to protect against hot linking if you're running your own hosting account and you don't want people pulling or drawing from your own web resources. Okay, so now that the ground rules have been established, how do we add in an image from a URL? Well, I'm going to head down into Posts. I'm going to click on Edit to head into my Edit Post screen, and I'm going to go and grab one of my posts here. Same one as always here. Welcome to my new blog. And I'll crank open my browser window here just a little bit so we have a little bit more room in here. Okay, now when you want to go and add in an image from a URL, the same rules really apply in terms of setting up your post. In other words, what I'd like you to do is go ahead and drop your cursor where you want your graphic to appear. So I've just clicked just before the word welcome at the very beginning of my post. And then up on the Upload Insert toolbar, I'm going to click on Add Image. Now, again, I'm going to have to now collapse down my browser window here so we can fit all this in here. Okay, there we are. Now, rather than choosing from computer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click from URL. So go ahead and choose that guy. And we're given some options here. The most important option, of course, is the image URL. So you can see the red star there. It's required, right? So here's where I'd actually type in the URL to the image. Now, the tricky thing here is if you get it wrong, of course, the URL is going to be broken, right? So I've already uploaded an image to one of my websites that I run. And I've included this image, by the way, inside your project files folder. So if you have some web space of your own, a hosting account of your own, you can definitely try this out, either with the image I'm going to use, which is called robotlounge.jpg, which you'll find in the project files folder, or you can use your own image. It's really up to you. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to type in the full path, the full address to this image. So it's http://www.jeff-blake.com/robotlounge. Now, .jpg. Now, a couple of things here. First of all, if you want to try typing in this URL, go for it. I'm not sure that this image will still be on jeff-blake.com when you go and watch this training. I may have removed it at this point. But the other thing I wanted to mention is the capitalization. You got to be really careful. The other thing you have to be really careful of is the file extension. Have you ever seen .jpg or .jpeg? Right? It's got to be bang on the money. Capitalization, the file extension, the whole 9 yards, right? Okay, another required field is the image title. As soon as I click inside the image title field, notice that the image URL field sees if it can connect up to the graphic, the robotlounge.jpg graphic. I get a green check mark beside the field, which means obviously that it hooked up, it connected. So that means it's working. So if yours is not working, again, you might want to double check that URL there. So the image title, I'm just going to type in here, Jeff's Robot Lounge. How's that? We can add in some alternate text. Maybe I'll type in the same thing for the alt text. Jeff's Robot Lounge. And the caption, you can add in a caption if you want. I'm going to leave my caption blank. The alignment there, this is all familiar stuff. Link image to. So once again, we can set this up so that our image is actually a hyperlink. So you can link to whatever you want. You can link to the image if you want. You could link to really whatever you want. So I'm going to leave mine blank here. And don't forget, we have to click on Insert into Post. So go ahead and do that. Okay, there's our Robot Lounge. He's kind of all jammed in here, but let's click on Update. Update our post here. So once the post has been updated there, let's go and preview this. Once again, visit site there, hold down Command or Control and click on that. Head over to your Preview tab. Let's see what we get here. There's our graphic. So this graphic right now is live on the web. So it's plugging through, it's piping all the way through into the Welcome to My New Blog post. Pretty cool stuff. All right. So you've seen how to insert images by uploading them from your computer. No worries there. You just saw how to include an image from a URL. Pretty straightforward as long as you get that URL right and as long as you're not hot linking off of someone else's website. But there's another way to go about adding in images into your posts, and that is by including an image that you've added to your media library inside WordPress. Now, the media library has come up a couple of times. Now is the time that we're actually going to start taking a closer look at exactly what the media library is, what it does, how it functions, and how you can use it to organize your images. So let's get started here. I'm going to close out of this preview tab. That's where we left off. And of course, this brings me into the Edit Post screen. And once again, I'm all kind of jammed up here, but what I want you to do is this image that you and I just inserted from the URL, just single click on it and then toast it. Just delete it there. And then make sure to update your post. Now, what I want to do with you next, of course, is I want to add an image into this particular blog post, but I want to do so via the media library. So let's see how this is going to work here. So before we get started, what I want to do is I want to go and add a new image to my media library. So check this out. Over on the left-hand side, I'm going to go and click on Media out of that left-hand menu. And of course, that opens up the media library. Now, what's interesting to note here inside the media library, you might want to kind of scroll up and down a little bit here, is, well, myself anyway, I've got two graphics, two images. I've got the Robot 1 and the Robot 2 graphics, right? And these images, of course, were uploaded from our computer. And how it works here is any image that you upload from your computer gets added to the media library by default. Notice that the image that you and I added in from the URL is not added to our media library. So again, only images that are uploaded become a part of the media library. They get stored in the media library for future use. Okay, now what I want to do here, as I was mentioning just a moment ago, is I want to go and add a new image to our media library, and there's a couple of different ways that we can do that. At the very top, we could click on Add New, or you can click on Add New underneath Media over on the left-hand side. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to click on Add New here. And once again, we're presented with an uploader, very similar to how we've been working so far with our images. So right now I'm using my Flash uploader. Remember, we can switch over to that browser uploader if we want instead. I'm going to go ahead and click on Select Files. And then inside your Project Files folder, I'd like you to go and grab a cartoon. He's called head1.jpg. Go ahead and grab that guy and go ahead and click on Select. He'll get uploaded here. Let me just scroll over a little bit here so we can see all of our options. Okay, now what do we have here? Well, a lot of the same options that we had before. There's the file name, the file type, upload date and dimensions. Remember, we can always edit our images if we want to use WordPress's built-in image editor. There's the title and the alt text and so on, right? All I'm going to do here at this point is I'm going to click on Save All Changes. And of course, WordPress goes to work here and adds in our new graphic, our new image into the media library. So now there's Head 1, and he's now added into our list of available images inside WordPress. So now that that's taken care of, we can now go about including this image in one of our posts. All right, so we have the new graphic added to the media library. Let's go and use this newly added image inside our post. So from the left, I'll head over to Posts and I'll click on Edit. And of course, I'm going to continue using my Welcome to my new blog post. So go ahead and click on that fella. Open him up in the Edit Post screen. And I'll just crank open my browser here once again so we can see what we have here. As before, go ahead and place your insertion point where you want this image to appear inside your post, wherever you want, doesn't matter where. Head up to Upload Insert and go ahead and click on that image button, that add an image button, I should say. And of course, that brings us into this add an image dialog box. Let me just scooch my browser window back a little bit so we can see exactly what's happening here. All right, so you've seen from computer, you've seen from URL. Let's go ahead and choose Media Library. Okay, so what we have now is a list of all of the images that have been included in our media library, that are a part of our media library. And what's kind of cool, by the way, is we can filter our view if we want. What I could do is I could say all types. In other words, show me all types of media that I have inside my media library. In just a little while, you'll see when we start working with video and audio, those types of media files also get added to the media library as well. So I can see all of my media if I want, or images, just the images, and there I only have 3 images, and later on when we get video and audio, we'd see links for those guys across the top here as well. And I can also filter by the dates as well if I want. And all this is doing is just filtering the view, right? Okay, so what I want to do is I want to go ahead and add in Head 1 into our current post, so I'm going to click on Show. And once that expands into this view here, of course, I can add in my content like the alt text and the caption and the description. You should be pretty comfortable with that by now, so I'm going to leave that up to you. I'll leave the description and the link URL up to you. My alignment, I'm going to make sure is set to none. My size, I'm going to make sure is set to full size. And just before I click on Insert into Post, again, it's kind of tricky to see there, but that's the guy that we're after there. What I want to point out is that we still have our other two images available here. We're still inside that view, but by clicking on Show, what that does is that expands the current graphic, right? I could click on Hide and that would collapse everything down. So just keep that in mind. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click on Insert into Post. There's my graphic inside my post now. Let's update this guy. Wait for WordPress to update our post, and let's go check out our live blog. So once again, Controller Command click on the Live Site button there in the top left corner. Scroll down a little bit, and there's our graphic. There's our image inserted from the media library. Video is always a hot topic, not only in web design as a whole, but particularly, it seems anyway, in WordPress and in WordPress development. So let's take a look at how to work with video. Really, we can add video to our posts, but really this topic should be called linking to video, as you will see in just a short while. There's a difference between how WordPress handles video by default and probably what you're after, which is what I would call embedding video. Now, you'll see what I mean here as we work our way along. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm looking at my dashboard. As always, I'm going to flip open the Posts category there over on the left-hand nav menu, and I'll click on Edit, and I'll go after the post that I want to add the video to. So, as always, I'll try and be consistent here. I'll stick with my welcome to my new blog post. Pop this guy open. And a few things that I want to do here. Once again, let me just crank this out so we can see what we're looking at here. This is more what you see on your side anyway. First of all, I'm going to get rid of this cartoon head, which you and I just inserted not too long ago, right? So make sure to single click on that graphic there, that cartoon graphic, and hit your delete button there to toast that guy. And if I want to go and insert video into this post, essentially it works the same way as does inserting a graphic. So I would start off by placing my insertion point. However, for this particular exercise, I think I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to drop my cursor at the beginning of my post, and then I'll hit enter, and then I'll tap my up arrow on my keyboard. So now I have this empty line. That's where I want to insert my video. Now, next up, to go and insert your video, what I'd like you to do is head up to that Upload Insert toolbar, and your video option is the second icon in Add Video. Go ahead and click on that guy. And let me collapse down this browser window so once again we can have a better view here. Okay, now what we can do at this point is we can add media files from our computer. So we can upload them from our computer. We can grab them from a URL if we wish, and you saw how to work with this related to images. It's exactly the same here with video. Or if we have video as a part of our media library, if we've uploaded video into our media library, well, then we'd see our video in this list of media files inside the media library tab. And of course, you and I, we only have graphics so far. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go all the way back to From Computer. And once again, I'm just using my Flash uploader. No big deal there. I'll click on Select Files. And inside the dialog box that appears inside the project files folder, I'm going to go and grab cartoonslideshow.mov. So .mov is a QuickTime movie that we will be adding to our post here. Okay, go ahead and click on Select, and that video file gets uploaded to the media library, of course. If I scroll down just a little bit, we get some similar information, some similar options that you and I got back when we were uploading graphics. So we have the file name, we have the file type and the upload date. We've got the title. Maybe what I'll do is I'll put a space in there. And the caption, you can fill that in if you want, as well as a description. Go ahead and fill that in as well if you like. And then the link URL, there's the URL, the path to this particular video file, the cartoon slideshow. So once again, it's inside your site, WP Content, uploads, year, month, and then the actual file there. Now, If this field is blank for you right now, make sure to click on File URL. Go ahead and click on that guy. This is pretty important for what we're doing here because you're going to see how this plays out in just a moment. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Insert into Post. Now, the interesting thing is I don't see any kind of a visual object inside my post here. I don't see a video file or any kind of a graphical element at all. All I see is this cartoon slideshow, and it almost looks like it's a hyperlink, doesn't it? Well, what we'll do next is we'll see how this will actually play out on our blog. Okay, are you ready to see how this plays out? Let's go and preview our post and see how the video is treated inside our post. So what I'll do over inside the right-hand portion of my screen is I'll click on Update, of course, to save my changes inside my post. And then let's go and view our site, of course, command-clicking or control-clicking on that link there. Okay, so give me just a moment here. I'm just going to scroll down. There's the post, welcome to my new blog. There's cartoon slideshow, again, that text there. Now, if you want, maybe what I can do here for clarity's sake is I'll click on that actual post title to open up that post all by itself here. So what winds up happening is, and this is what I was really alluding to just a few minutes ago, is the video doesn't become a part of the post in the same way that a graphic does. What we wind up getting is a link to the video. So if I click on the cartoon slideshow link, I now get that video, that .mov file opening up by itself inside its own page, if that makes sense. So in other words, it's a direct link to that video file. So rather than the video actually being embedded into the post, it's linked to. That's just the way it works here inside WordPress, by default anyway. Now, let me bounce a couple of ideas off of you here, because when I show this, a lot of times people are quite disappointed. This is not what they wanted. What they wanted was the video to actually be a part of the post, right? And you see that all the time throughout different blogs online, right? So how do you do that? How do you embed video into a post? Well, you have three options. First of all, what you can do is you can use a video service like YouTube or Vidler, right? And what you could do is, I'm sure you've seen this on YouTube or on other video sites, is they'll have some embed code beside the video. Well, we could take that code and copy it and then paste it into WordPress's HTML editor, right? So in other words, what I would do here is I'd flip back to my editor, and let me just expand this out a little bit here. And what I'll do is I'll flip over to the HTML editor, and rather than having a hyperlink, the ahref and so on, instead I would paste in that embed code. Of course, to get that to work, I'd have to take my cartoon slideshow, our example here anyway, and upload it to one of these video services. And then that would mean that the file is now available on YouTube or on Vidler or whatever video service I'm using, right? But anyway, that's one option. The second option is to use a WordPress plugin, and there's a few of them that will allow you to embed video. Two WordPress plugins are FLV Embed, which will let you embed FLV formatted videos. Or there's another one here, Viper's Video Quick Tags. That's another plugin that you can use. And we haven't talked too much about plugins in WordPress yet, but we'll be getting to them in just a little while. That's another option. The third option, do you remember we talked about this way back at the beginning of this chapter anyway? We talked about using auto-embeds. And you can certainly make use of your auto-embeds, again, if you're using a video service like Vidler or YouTube or Google Video or something like this. And if you want, you can go back to the beginning of this chapter and review that if you're not sure what I'm talking about. But those are your three options: using a video service, using a plugin, or using your auto-embeds. Again, I always feel kind of bad when I show video because it's kind of an exciting topic, but the way that WordPress handles the video by default anyway is, well, let's just say it leaves a little bit to be desired, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how to use auto-embeds to get some video into your posts. So what I've done here, I'll just flip over to another tab that I have open here inside my browser, is I thought it would be kind of fun to throw in a YouTube video into our blog. Not just any YouTube video, though. A VTC video, a VTC Turbo video. Apparently, there's a type of, I guess it's an SUV called a VTC. So what the heck? We'll see if we can throw this into our post. Now, what we'll need to do is we'll need to get the URL for the video. And that URL is available in two spots. You'll find the URL for the video over on the right-hand side, in YouTube anyway, right here where it says URL, just below the video info there. So you can grab that URL there, that's one spot, or you can grab it out of your address bar up at the top of your browser window. It doesn't really matter, but go ahead and select it and copy it, Command-C or Control-C, and then I'll just close out of this tab. We don't need that guy open anymore. Back into the admin area of our WordPress blog, let's pop open Posts over on the left-hand side, into Edit. If you're thinking of editing the welcome to my new blog post, you are bang on the money. Let's head in there. And we're going to do a few things here. First of all, let me expand open my browser window so we can see what's what here. And I still have the link there for the cartoon slideshow. Let's get rid of that. So all you need to do is just select that and hit delete on your keyboard to toast that cartoon slideshow link. And then this is so super easy. All I'm going to do is paste. Just like that. So in other words, all I'm doing is I'm taking the link from the YouTube video, and don't forget, this will work for Google videos, and it'll work for Vidler and a whole pile of other video hosting services. You just take that link, paste it into your post, and as a quick aside, I'm in the visual editor, not in the HTML editor. So that might seem kind of strange. Hey, we're pasting some code almost. The URL there is very code-ish, if you will, but it's going into the visual editor, right? All right, let's go and check this out. I'll go and collapse down my browser window, update the post over on the right-hand side. There he is. Okay, let's go and preview our results. So as a quick point of interest, the view that I see in the back end here is just all text, sort of like we just had with the cartoon slideshow, right? You can click on preview changes if you want. You can control or command click on view site if you want. Either way, you'll wind up back into the live side of your blog, and if I scroll down, sure enough, there's that YouTube video that's being automatically embedded, auto-embedded into my post. Let me click on the post title here so we can just see the post by itself. Now, if you want to go ahead and watch your VTC Turbo video coming off of YouTube, go for it. And I'm sure at this point in the game, you'll probably want to pause this video and try embedding some other YouTube videos, try embedding some Google videos and maybe some Vidler videos and all the rest of it. So there you go. There's Auto-Embeds. You can also go about adding audio files into your WordPress posts, which is fantastic if you want to include some music. Perhaps you're running a musician's website, or perhaps you are in a band or something like this. Or perhaps it's a situation where you're running a podcast and you want to include your podcasts in your posts. So let's take a look at how this is going to work. And again, unfortunately, without the assistance of plugins, adding audio to posts is a bit of a letdown here in WordPress, but I'll walk you through the paces at least anyway, so you know how to do it. So as always, I'm going to flip open the posts category there over on the left-hand side into Edit. Let's go and grab that welcome to my new blog post, pop that fella open, and when I go and expand my browser window here so we can see what's happening, you'll notice that I still have that YouTube video, that auto-embed video happening inside this post. So I'm going to make sure to get rid of that. You can hang on to yours if you want. You can go and add in your audio somewhere else inside this post if you want. But in any regard, what I'm going to do is I'll head up to the Upload Insert toolbar. Rather than inserting an image or a video, this time I'm going to grab some audio. So go ahead and click on Add Audio. And then, as always, I'm going to have to collapse this back down so we can see everything here. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload some audio from my computer. But, of course, what you can do is you can include some audio from a URL. Or if you've already added in some audio files to your media library, you can, of course, use the media library tab to go and grab them and hook them up to your blog post. Okay, but as I say, I'm going to make sure that I have from computer here. I'm clicked on that tab, and I'll click on Select Files, and then from the Project Files folder here, we actually have two audio files, jingle.mp3 and jingle.wave. They're both exactly the same, just different file formats, right? So you can grab whichever one you want. I'll go with the MP3 here and go ahead and click on select. The MP3 gets uploaded into our media library. If I scroll down a bit, there we can see the file name and the file type, and of course the upload date. Now, you can set up your title, you can set up your caption and your description as well. I think I'm going to leave mine blank though. And then again, what's going to happen here is we have to make sure that we have our link URL pointing to our MP3 file. So if this field again is blank, make sure to click on File URL. So in other words, what's going to happen here is exactly what we originally saw with video. What's going to happen is we're going to get a hyperlink pointing to the MP3 file. Go ahead and click on Insert into Post. Okay, there we are. Looks good. There's the link to the jingle.mp3 file. Let's update our post. Okay, there we are. And of course, we want to go and see our live blog, so we already know how to do this. We've done this quite a few times already. I think this time I'll just click on Preview Changes, and that throws me into this Preview tab here inside my browser. There's the link for my Jingle MP3, and of course, you can go and click on that. I'm just going to pause it up so it's not playing in my headphones, but you can listen to the jingle if you want there. And of course, he's playing inside his own page because we've connected directly to this MP3 file. I'll just back up here, back to the post. So there you go. Again, if you're not working with plugins, we're not going to get an actual player inside the post, which is, again, a bit of a drag. But again, this is how WordPress handles audio by default. Let's try inserting some other types of media. Now, what WordPress means when it talks about media is really any kind of file. If you have PowerPoint presentations or PDFs or Word documents, they're all really fair game here. And really, adding in these different types of media files is really all the same. Let's see exactly how this is all going to play out. So, as always, I'll go ahead and expand the posts category there over on the left-hand side into edit, and I'll head into my welcome to my new blog post. Okay, and kind of deja vu here. I'll expand this out here. Okay, and there's the link to the MP3 file that we just created not too long ago, and I'll go ahead and get rid of that link there. And what I'll do now is I'll head up to the Upload Insert toolbar. You saw how to insert audio. Now what we'll do is we'll head for Add Media. Go ahead and click on that icon right there. Okay, now once again, let me just collapse everything back down here so we can see this new pop-up here. And really, a lot of what we've been doing is really all the same. With the video, that's where you saw this first, and then with the audio and the graphics, of course. Actually, that's where you saw it first, wasn't it? The graphics, and then we did the video. But in any regard, it's all really the same. From computer, from URL, from our media library. We can even insert a gallery if we want, a gallery of media files or images, that kind of thing. I'm going to go with the Flash uploader, which is the default uploader here. Same as before. Choose files to upload. I'll click on Select Files. And what I've done here inside our project files folder is I threw in a PDF, and that's the example that I'm going to use here. It's called chapter3.pdf. Go ahead and grab him and click on select. That guy, of course, gets uploaded. And let me just scroll down a little bit here. We get a little thumbnail graphic for this fella here. The file name, file type, the upload date, and then of course the the title, which is chapter 3, the caption, and the description. So really it's all sort of the same stuff here. And then of course the link URL. Make sure you have that link URL in there. You might have to click on File URL and then Insert into Post. And there's our link, of course, for the PDF file. Let's go and check them out. So I'll click on Update, and then I'll click on Preview Changes once that update is complete. Or, of course, you can use your Visit Site link if you like there. Okay, there's our link. Go ahead and click on them. And what happens for myself, anyway, is Firefox on the Mac here wants to open up this file, and it wants to open it up with Acrobat Pro. So I'll go ahead and click on OK. That's just fine with me. Yourself, perhaps it'll download the file for you, or might get some other sort of result here. Now just bear with me while I adjust my screen here a little bit. There's the PDF file now opened up inside Acrobat, and I'll just zoom out here so we can see the full page. And there's our full PDF file there. So there you go. There's linking up to different types of media, different files. Again, you can use your PowerPoint presentations if you like, or you can use your PDF files or Word documents, or really whatever you have. Well, you and I have been adding all sorts of different media files to our posts. We saw images, and we saw how to include video and audio, and just a second ago, you saw how to add in things like PDF files. Now, what's really interesting here, and I believe we talked about this earlier, is that as you're adding these different types of media to your posts, assuming that you're uploading them to your blog, by the way, from your computer, these files get added to your media library. And what you can do with your media library is you can use the library to organize your uploaded media. You can edit them, you can delete them, you can sort them, and things like this. So what we'll do in this exercise is we'll take a closer look at the media library itself. So from the left-hand menu, make sure to expand the media category there and go ahead and click on Library. And that, of course, brings you into the media library here. And what we see here, and we saw this earlier, is a list of all of our uploaded media. And earlier, I think we only had 2 images, the first 2 images, this fella here and the droid one, I think is the name of this fella here anyway. But what's interesting to note is as you start adding more content to your blog, more media to your blog, the older media gets pushed down towards the bottom of this list and newer media gets added to the top. So there's the PDF that you and I just added. Before the PDF, you and I added in that MP3, and before that we had the cartoon slideshow, as I'm sure you'll recall. So that's sort of how it works here anyway inside the media library. And for each of our items, what we'll see when we hover over top of them is we get some additional text links. Edit, delete permanently, or we can view the item. What is the name of the file? Chapter 3 for the PDF here. The author. What post is this piece of media attached to? And the date. That was 5 minutes ago that I had done that. So that's sort of the idea there. Oh, and there's also comments there as well, if there's any comments on this particular post that the media is included on. So that's the idea. The other thing that you can do is you can sort your media. How would you go about doing that? Well, what you can do is you can use these links running right across the top of the media library. So right now we're seeing everything, all, and there's 6 items. I could choose to filter the view by clicking on images. So I'm going to go ahead and click on images, and now I only see the 3 graphics, the 3 images that you and I have been working on. Or I could say, just show me the audio files, for example. And there's the jingle MP3, or the video files. I think you get the idea here. What unattached would be is any media files that you've uploaded to the media library that haven't been included in a post yet. That's the idea there. In any regard here, I'll go back to all so we can see all of our media files. The other thing that I should mention as well is we have these checkboxes here beside each of our media files here. And what I can do is I can mark off some of these images here, or some of these media types, really, I should say. They're not all images. And I can use this bulk actions drop-down menu. And really, the only command, the only option that I have underneath bulk actions is delete permanently. So what I can do is I can delete some of the media files that you and I have uploaded on a permanent basis. Now, the important thing to know is that when you go and delete something, you permanently delete something, not only is it completely removed from the media library, in other words, if you accidentally delete something, you're going to have to re-upload it. But the other thing, too, is that if the particular piece of media is being used in a blog post and you delete it, then, of course, what's going to happen is the content would still want to reside inside the post, so we're going to wind up with a broken link, right? So just watch out for that. Okay, so I hope all this is making sense for you. It's fairly straightforward stuff. I want to show you one more quick thing here. I'm going to go and find one of my images. It doesn't really matter which image. I'll use the head1.jpg image. And don't forget, when I hover over top of my media, I get these extra text links here. I'm going to go ahead and click on edit. And when I edit an image, it brings me into this edit media screen where I can go and change the title. I can set up my alt text, the caption and the description and so on. But what I can do as well is I can gain access to this edit image screen as well. And we saw this not too long ago. Remember when we were talking about cropping and rotating and all this good stuff? So this is kind of a back door into WordPress's image editing screen, if you will, and we could scale our image and so on. I hope that makes sense. So one more time, if you're not sure how I got here, I'll just head back to my media library by clicking on the library there over on the left-hand side. And what I did is I hovered over top of one of my images and I clicked on Edit, and then I simply clicked on Edit Image, and that brought me into this WordPress image editor. In any regard, there's your media library. I hope all of that is working for you.